Let me.
Oh my goodness. Here we are with Negin Farsad. How are you?
I am so excited to be here. And I just had to make sure that my phone was on Do Not Disturb because I do not want anyone disturbing me during this monumental conversation with Kendra, a
Well,
person that is just, if you haven't had a conversation with Kendra in your life, you haven't chatted,
you haven't, you really haven't. But I feel like I would like to do this more often with you, just without the whole
with
intention of podcasting and recording and all that jazz, because I miss you.
I
Okay, so I'm
know.
trying to think. Do you know how long we've known each other? Because I don't. I think it's been
Okay,
10 years,
I
maybe.
I think it's been 10 years. I think we met probably, maybe we met a little earlier. Like maybe we met, like I saw you around. But
Right.
then in 2012, I'm pretty sure we met because that's when I started doing Comedy School Dropout.
Right. And then I remember because it was you. Who were your other co-hosts? You had
There was a Beth McGregor,
yes,
there was an Amy Albert Cobb, a
yes,
lot,
yes.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
obviously
So
Becky Yamamoto.
yeah,
We've
okay.
seen a lot of
So
iterations. Yeah.
well, I just want to say that I remember going to the show when it was you, Beth, and Amy, and I was like, in my head, I was like, I love this show. And I don't know if you remember, but I was like, if you guys ever need like a fill-in host, or I was like chomping at the bit to get my foot in the door at that show. I'll never forget that. And then I remember you guys actually asked me once, like I got a text and they were like, "Oh, can you fill in tonight?" And I don't know what I think I was bartending, and I was like, "I can't." And I was like, "Crap, I just lost my chance." And then fast forward, it ended up being me, you, and
And
Becky
Becky,
eventually doing that show.
for years, like we kept that going for so long. It's really stunning. It's really impressive how long we kept it going. And it's not like we needed it. It's just like there was just like, for me, there was just like it was like an emotional anchor, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? To like,
totally.
yeah, yeah.
And also I feel like it was at the Beauty Barn in Union Square, outside of Union Square, and also I feel like we canceled it. Like we were like, it's over, we're not doing it anymore, and then we were
And then
like,
we
oh
brought it.
wait a minute, we scratch that, we're back.
I do
Um,
think it was like it was one of the longest running independently produced stand-up shows.
yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
I think female, and also female produced, which I think we either created that accolade or it was true. I'm not sure.
No, I think
Um,
I think you're right. Because then the other thing that I think was interesting in it, and for people who don't know, like comedy still is, and I'm curious to know where you would put the ratio. But I think like in 2012, it very much felt like 20% women, 80% men or something.
yep.
These are not scientific numbers, but these are numbers of the heart.
Yes.
And I remember thinking the way we booked the show, because we are three women booking a show, our lineups would tend to be like 80% women, 20% men. And we weren't trying, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
We weren't sitting there being like, let's try and book more women than men. Like it was just because the people that we had an affinity for, like, were like, oh, I'd love to see so-and-so work. And that's kind of like how we ended up booking. So it just naturally became the inverse of every comedy show in the city.
Yep. Oh, totally. And I miss it terribly. I wish,
Yeah.
but you know what? I think, you know, in these times that we're in, it's better to have the wonderful memories we have than
Yeah.
try to white knuckle through whatever's happening out there right now. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
But listen, let me ask you. I mean, I know we've known each other for that long. That being said, I don't even like. This is one of the things that I love about doing this podcast is I get to talk to my friends and ask them all these questions that I wouldn't normally ask them in everyday life. So, when you were younger, when did you start being creative? Like when you were you into being theatrical and stuff in high school, or what? When did you?
It's funny because on this very day, we're taping on MLK Day, so school is out, and my kid is going to have her first like drop off situation where the other kids are being dropped off, like parents aren't sticking around. So they start doing that right around 3 or 4. And today is her first, and like she's got a like a TP fort thing in her room. She's, like we like arranged it so there's like this looks like a kid situation,
Right.
and I'm looking at her, and she's a class clown, you know what I mean, in a good way, not in an annoying way. She's always like got a joke, like she is fun loving. I think like like in speaking to other 3-year-olds, my understanding of her is that she is funny. And I think, and so it's interesting to, first of all, it's not a quality I'm trying to pass down, for the record. I want everyone to know I would like that to stop right here. I don't need to be raising some fucking comedian. Okay, no, thank you. So hopefully she's just the most hilarious chemist you've ever met. But it's funny to see her in action with her friends and stuff like that. I was not naturally like that. I wasn't. Okay. I think I was like pretty quiet. Like, I think it was just like, I played with dolls and Barbies, and there were some crafts, and I had friends over, and I don't remember what we talked about. And then I remember going to middle school, and things started to shift. I started doing like musical theater camps and stuff like that.
I see. I didn't know that about you.
And then I started, and things really started to shift, my freshman year of high school, when I joined the drama class. And by sophomore year, I was in a musical, playing not Kitchen Wench #1 or Kitchen Wench #2, but Kendra Kitchen Wench #3, the vaunted role of Kitchen, which I think everyone agrees is one of the lead characters of Once Upon a Mattress. And so but that's when everything changed. And like when like something unlocked about, I was always an academic nerd. Starting like second grade, I remember being like really intense about my grades, and like coming home and just being like, these are all O's, what, and just for outstanding, by the way.
I was going to say, what does the O stand for?
And so I was always an academic nerd, and that carried through my whole, academic career. But the comedy was an add-on, and it honestly, I think it made me, I would think I was scared or something. And then at a certain point, something opened up, and I was less scared of just being openly like funny.
Right. Now, so you sing?
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal. Yeah, totally sing, Kendra. No, and I mean at that time, and it's one of the I've written a musical with the amazing Gabi Alter, and we've performed it in New York City, and it's called The Israeli-Palestinian Conflict, a Romantic Comedy. We performed it at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And
I didn't know.
Yeah. And it was, and I am not like a natural singer, but the crazy thing is that like, if you go, there's this, if you like practice it, it's a muscle, right? And then you get better, which is like so obvious, but it kind of blows your mind. And I was listening to this episode, I think it was Freakonomics. Shout out to Stephen Dubner. I was listening to an episode of Freakonomics, and he had on some sort of their psychologist or something out of Denmark or whatever, who wanted to test that out, the theory of 10,000 hours.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They're like, you do something for 10,000 hours and you're an expert at it or whatever. So she was like, I want to have a beautiful voice, and I want to sound like Whitney Houston. This is like a 40-something, right, middle-aged mom who was like, this is going to be my 10,000 hour test. I'm going to put all my time into it. And she sounded terrible in the beginning. And I was like, this bitch is not going to sound like Whitney Houston. And literally by the end of the episode, that tracked her year of singing, she did sound like Whitney Houston, and she recorded an album, and she had a hit single in Denmark. Like, it's this crazy story. It's like one of my favorite episodes of radio of all time, because it's so inspiring. So I always say, my point is, Kendra, I am not a singer specifically, but I can be.
Well, it's so funny you said that, though, because I always think about that, like just like the logistics of when you know what you have to do in order to get where you want to be, but yet you still don't do it. Like I go to a personal trainer once a week, and he's like, you can't eat like pizza and pasta every week, like, you know what I mean? And I know that.
Yeah.
And I'm just still like, hi, can you please send me a blah, 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 you know what I mean? I'm like, I know if I don't do this, I could be some closer to where I want to be, but yet I still behave in ways that are counteractive to what I say I want.
Yep.
Anyways,
and that's the just like the condition of being human. Like, why do we all do that? Right?
Yeah, I know.
It's bizarre.
Did you read that book, Habits?
No, it's like on my list of things that I'm supposed to do to make myself a better person. But yes,
I read it and it was very good. And of course, like as I'm reading it, I'm like, yeah. And then the minute I finish it, I'm like, oh, what did that person say? So now I got to go and like read it again and take notes and all that jazz. But it's very good. It gets you like a little bit more, at least for me, I got a little bit more like enthusiastic about, instead of trying to break bad habits, just try to create new good habits.
Yeah.
And just reframing it seems to be a little bit helpful. So let me ask you now, when you first started doing stand-up, did you just say, I'm going to go to an open mic, or how did it come out?
So, I mean, like I had this kind of like musical theater, sketch, whatever background. I went to college and I double majored in government and theater, and I was in a sketch comedy troupe. So like I really fancied myself a sketch person.
Right.
And I came to New York, and I actually had a couple of sketch teams, and that was great. And we actually like did some really good work that I was proud of. But I think the funny thing that happens with those situations is the logistics, right? Where you're just like, God, I need 5 people, audio cues, props, costumes. Like, what if I just held a microphone? You know what I mean? Like, could I do this? And I was, so the logistics were sort of getting in the way, and I wanted to be able to do something on my own. I wanted to move at a faster pace or at a different pace. And I wrote a solo show called Bootleg Islam. And I did this solo show. And this is like a gajillion years ago, right? This is like 2007. And people thought that I did stand up.
I see.
Because I did this solo show. So, and then they were like, oh, could you just come and do 10 minutes? And I was like, yes, I totally know what you mean by come and do 10 minutes. That makes total sense to me. Like, these are all words that I'm comfortable and familiar with. So I will quote unquote come and do 10 minutes. I threw myself into the deep end, really like not knowing what. I'm not one of those people, because I get the question all the time of like, who did you grow up listening to? Who did you grow up listening to, Kendra?
I was kind of like, well, first of all, I loved, my mother was a big fan of Carol Burnett, so she was always playing Carol Burnett, but loved,
I love that too.
I think for me, it was mostly like talk showy type people, you know what I mean? And I also loved, I say I love him, and now I'm going to forget his freaking name, but, British guy,
the one that also speaks French.
Wait, oh my God. All right, now it'll come to me.
Eddie Izzard?
No, even before that. Oh God damn it. I hate when that happens. Anyway, I'll think of it. But he was kind of like almost like a idiot.
Okay.
I've always been sort of drawn to the idiot comedy myself, but it's funny because I don't feel like I do much of it in my own act. But anyway, what I was going to say is,
well, that like I didn't have I didn't grow up like listening to stand up, and a lot of people assume, like,
Right.
and you hear, and I'm sure you've heard all these same, everyone's like, oh, the Richard Pryor album and the, Eddie Murphy's albums, and everyone has these like 5
Right.
or 10
Yeah, yeah,
albums that
yeah.
everybody always refers to as like being the thing that made them want to be a comedian or whatever. And I'm like, that's hilarious. I don't have that. Like, I don't have an album. And in fact, when I started doing stand-up, was a little bit of like backtracking, like, oh, I better figure out what any of stand-up was, because I never truly paid attention to it. And so I sort of have been playing catch up since 2007. And but I think the difference now, having done theater and musicals and sketch most heavily, the thing about stand-up, I mean, sketch is also really difficult, but stand-up is really difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, and like, look, this about me. I've made 3 feature films.
Yep.
I've written a book. I've worked cross genre.
Right.
And I think of everything, I'm like, stand up, like, to me, I'm like, Steven Spielberg would be the greatest of all time if he added stand up to what he does, because then we would know,
Right. No, it's true. But the thing that's, like a lot of creative stuff, we can only control so much in terms of like, we can make our act and find places to go perform and stuff like that. But like, if we want to be the lead in the next, big comedy feature, we don't have like control over that. And I think that's like, to me, I feel like I just started to really accept that as a fact in the past couple of years, like in the past 4 years. I'm like, oh, well, I can't, like, I literally cannot do anything except what I've been doing, like trying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it gets to be like, oh, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you go and work in like at Fidelity Investments and you start as a customer service rep and you're good at it, you can then be a vice president and you're good at that. Like, you keep kind of
there's a clear path, and there is no clear path here.
No. And that's why I love hearing everybody's stories. And I mean, you of all people have really I feel like you really are good at every genre that you've covered. You know what I mean? Like, you're
I would say that's really nice, but I would say stand-up is extremely difficult. Not that I've achieved it. I think that's the thing. It's so difficult. Most people never really achieve it. Like, I'm talking famous, though famous ones aren't even necessarily achieving, right? We've all seen specials from the greats or whatever, and you're like, that wasn't as good as the last one, or you know what I mean? Right. And so because it's so difficult, it's so hard to replicate the same level of quality. It's so hard to be the level of prolific. That's something that kills me. It's just like, and so I think and the only reason I got into like doing all these different genres is just like, I wanted to work in the business, and in not every aspect of the business wanted me, like, the whole idea was for me to be an actor.
Right.
That was the whole idea.
Right.
And I mean, and the real whole other idea was for me to be a policy advisor and then rise through the ranks and then run for president. Like, that was the real idea. And I did do that. Like, I worked for the city when we had met, I had already left my job, but I went to grad school for that. Like, I really did all that. But then when I admitted to myself that I didn't want to be in politics, acting is the most fun of all of the jobs. It's the most fun,
Yeah. I totally agree. I love being able to be like completely sort of not be anything like myself. You know what I mean? Like, be like, oh, that's good for a moment. I didn't have to deal with all this stuff that I'm normally
Yes,
ruminating about.
and then also to like just focus on that one character and then let the director have all the stress.
Yep. I
Like
know,
that's
it's
the
true.
best.
It's true. It's true. It's so
You know?
true.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so,
yeah, but acting was the idea, and the only reason I did all these other things is because it's like I thought I could get a book deal. Okay, so I did. I thought I could get another movie made and maybe sell it. Okay, I did. Okay, I think I can, because I couldn't get booked as an actor, like
right.
especially in the early days, I just couldn't.
Well, I mean, it turned out good for you. I'm trying to, it's still driving me crazy that I can't think of that British comic's name. I just texted to see if someone could tell me who it was.
You should Google like British comic dumb guy.
I know it begins with, I know it begins with a B. I put it that way. So, okay. So what about so do you feel as if it sounds to me like you had sort of like a natural proclivity to doing all this creative stuff because you started when you were pretty young. What was your family reaction? Were they like coming to all your shows in high school and stuff like
No,
that?
I mean, absolutely not. Also, I think because like I have immigrant parents, it just in Iran, they're not like going to performances. I don't mean because of the Islamic Republic, but also obviously because of the Islamic Republic now. But when my parents were growing up, that just like wasn't a thing. Like that, it's very American plays and ceremonies and graduations and all that stuff is just like very American. My parents fully didn't know that that other parents were more involved. And I like other parents would like come to every performance of plays. My parents fully missed a couple of plays I was in, and I just don't think it's not like they were trying to be mean or whatever. I just like truly they didn't know it was a thing. I
Right.
wasn't out there telling them like, hey, it's really important for you to come,
Right.
So it just I think part of it was just the immigrant
Right.
miscommunication
It is
situation.
funny that you say that because my parents, obviously were born in the United States, but I feel like I still to this day feel like they have a little bit of an immigrant mentality because I think to them, like being in a play, like when I was like I think I was in one play when I was in like 8th grade, and it was
Uh-huh.
really kind of seen as like fucking around. You know what I mean? Like you're
Right,
doing what? Like why aren't you like
right.
playing sports or studying or like
Yes,
doing something
yes.
that's like we understand will help you in the future,
Completely. I think it's a
Yeah.
generational thing of like not recognizing it as valuable,
Right.
in earlier generations. So it's like kind of didn't recognize it as valuable.
Right. Right.
And
Oh,
I
totally.
honestly kind of agree with them. Like, is any of this valuable? You know what I mean?
I still do meditations about it, believe me. I'm like, okay, well, it's not financially valuable,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
valuable. Like I try to figure out like
Right.
making a
Right.
list
What is
of
it doing? Yeah.
yeah, but and these things are important. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to brainwash myself into believing it's okay. It's okay, Kendra. You're doing all right. Um, so okay, so we have all that being said, and then and you have the big show coming up this week,
Yes. I'm
Thursday.
doing, yes, on January 20th, 20th, and 21st. I'm going to be at Joe's Pub in New York City doing the Case for American Exceptionalism by Lady Muzz. Oh, the name just flies off the tongue. But yes, I will be making the case for American exceptionalism. And
And are you excited?
I am excited. I mean, it's like we were talking about this offline, that basically like I've been working on this. I've done a few iterations. It's this like, it's this painful but exhilarating process of like figuring out what is the right hour to this hour.
Right.
And so that's what's going on. And then of course I have this weird history of having done TED Talks. And so I sort of also have a lot of PowerPoint because I just couldn't help myself. The like nerd element, like really like it comes through on this show. But I always just, I always think like, oh, how could I explain this in graph form? And would that add a layer of punchline? So So you'll see a lot of that stuff, but I'm excited and tortured at the same time.
Now, how do you, how do you rehearse? Do you rehearse with somebody, or do you rehearse in your?
You know what? I honestly, like, I would love to be told what to do, because I feel like I start rehearsing and then I sort of get sidetracked. Like, I'll just be like by myself in a room, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like talking to a window, and it just feels dumb and I just get sidetracked. You know what I mean? It's like I sort of do need, I should at least bring my dog in the room or someone to help me, to hold me accountable to the process. But I'm and I also think the other thing that I found interesting is, like, people say, like, you have really great ideas in the shower.
Right.
And I think part of working on a show like this, I think part of and I don't know if you find this to be true about stand-up, but I'll find the answer to it's often hard to end a joke, right? To end a bit.
Right.
And I'll often find that while I'm like folding the laundry or like in the shower, there has to be, you have to like give your brain like space to like do something dumb. And when you're doing that dumb thing, there's some science behind this. It sounds like I'm just saying garbage, but there's actual science behind the part of your brain that lights up when you're doing a mundane activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just, I started like listening to podcasts all the time and like always having something on in the room. And I wasn't like letting my mind wander. And I've been, one part of my goals for 2023, talking about adding habits, is just to like sit more with silence, which is horrible because I don't want to hang out with myself most of the time. You know what I mean? But it is so important, I think, for for any kind of problem solving that you have in your life, just like hanging out in silence, doing whatever.
I totally agree. I was curious because I find it hard too when I need to, rehearse something. Like sometimes I'm like by myself and I'll like have the voice memo thing on. So I try to make myself do so many minutes. And then I'll torture myself by then going back and listening to the voice memo. And I'm literally,
torture.
I'm like literally delivering the comedy, like, and then I went to the shop and I I'm like, oh my God, no.
Oh, I want those tapes need to be leaked. Forget sex tape. This is the ultimate humiliation right here.
Someone could blackmail me, like,
oh God.
Honestly, I'd be like, I don't even know. I probably wouldn't be able to afford whatever they wanted to get from me. So, okay, we got to wrap it up because I don't want to take up all your time. I know you have a whole life beyond me. I just want to.
But Kendra? Do I?
I hate to even think that that's a reality. Okay, so last question will be, considering this plethora of talent that you have. I mean, writer, performer, podcaster, producer, everything. You've done pretty much everything. What if you could do, in 2023, some amazing opportunity just comes out of the blue that you were not expecting at all?
Yeah.
That you're like, oh my God, that sounds perfect for me right now. What would it be?
Oh my God. First of all, I just want to say, as you said those kind words, I did roll my eyes because I cannot handle compliments. So thank you. Also, I roll. And the first thing, I feel like I should say the first thing that came to mind, and I think maybe because we started talking about my childhood, I'm not the person anyone thinks of for musicals, but it's like I want to do them. Like deep down, just give me 6 months advance notice so I could get the voice going. But
that's awesome. I love that.
I feel like that's something, and it's, I love karaoke. I love just like and I love the like just super commedia dell'arte ridiculousness of a musical where you're not like acting like in a camera where like a really subtle eyebrow movement is communicating so much. You are just straight up just doing wild gesticulation, and it's just so fun. I mean, it's a little bit like going to like a workout, like, you know what I mean? You're moving so much, you're singing and breathing so much.
Right,
It's
right,
just
right,
like,
right.
it's just
It's
like a
fun.
fun, it's just so
Right.
fun. And it makes me feel like the 11-year-old who did
Oh,
you know, music kids camp or
I
whatever, you
love
know.
that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, Negin the musical. That might be the next coming soon. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on Thursday. And I'm gonna stop the thing, but don't leave, okay?
Okay, and I'm so excited that you're going to be opening for me. It's just
Oh,
a perfect combination of events.
it's gonna be. I can't wait. I'm super grateful to be invited. All right, here we go. I'm gonna stop this. Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's
Oh, sorry. I was trying to stop it. I mean, I was